Do you want her to think about you when she's alone in bed, waking up in the middle of the night desiring you without understanding why? The key to creating emotional and sexual obsession is simple. Give her a taste of what she could have, and then take it away. The human mind is designed to chase what it can't have, and if you play your cards right, she'll get hooked on you to the point where she can't think about anyone else. If you do this correctly, she won't just look for you, she'll need you. I'm going to show you how to trigger obsession in anyone using desire, coldness, and emotional tension. If you want to become her obsession, stay until the end. Step 1. Sit next to her. This is where everything begins. Before words, before flirting, before attraction feels conscious. Sit next to her and pay attention to what happens next. Use your body language and watch her reaction carefully, because if you want to make someone obsessed, the first thing you must do is get inside their head. And the fastest way to do that is not with words, but with body language. Body language speaks directly to the nervous system. It bypasses logic. It creates attraction that feels automatic, almost involuntary. The other person doesn't decide to feel something, it simply happens. The goal here is subtle sexuality, not obvious flirting, not clear seduction, not something the other person can easily explain. You want to create a situation where they feel attraction but can't clearly say why. That's important because the moment someone can explain their attraction, the mind relaxes. But when attraction appears without a clear reason, the brain starts searching for answers. And that question, why do I feel attracted to this person, is what plants the seed of obsession. Now imagine a normal, everyday situation. Nothing special, nothing romantic. It could be the office, university, a group of friends, a casual social setting. You sit next to her, but not directly in front. Sitting face to face creates pressure. It feels like confrontation. It puts both people in a defensive position without them realizing it. But when you sit slightly sideways, angled just a little toward her, the message changes completely. The message becomes, I'm not chasing you, but I'm open. That balance matters. You are close, but not needy. Present, but not demanding. That combination of closeness and apparent indifference creates tension, and tension is where attraction starts to grow. Now, body language truly comes into play. At some point, let your knee lightly brush against her leg. Not slow, not repeated, not obvious, just once, like it happened by accident. That moment matters more than it seems. That small, casual physical contact creates an instant dopamine spike in the brain. The body reacts immediately before the mind has time to judge it. She will feel it, but she won't know how to interpret it. Was it intentional? Was it accidental? Did it mean something? And that uncertainty is exactly where manipulation begins. In doubt, don't stop at physical contact. Use your voice. Lower your voice slightly when you speak. Not whispering, just quieter than normal. Enough that she has to lean in a little to hear you clearly. Now something important happens. The brain naturally associates physical closeness with intimacy and vulnerability. If she has to move closer to understand what you're saying, her brain starts building a story. Not consciously, subconsciously. It starts interpreting the situation as different, as special, as intimate. She may not even realize why she suddenly feels more connected, but the feeling is there. Now comes the master move. Once you've made her come physically closer, you pull back. Not dramatically, not coldly, just slightly. That small retreat creates a psychological gap, and the human mind hates gaps. It wants closure. It wants balance. The moment she feels that distance, her instinct will be to close it again. And the second she does that, even mentally, she has already started seeking you. That's the shift. You are no longer pursuing, she is. The key here is to hold attention without confirming interest. If, after that initial contact, she looks at you, waiting for a reaction, stay calm. Don't laugh nervously, don't act uncomfortable, don't explain anything. Keep your face neutral, or hold a soft, confident smile. A smile that says nothing, a smile that feels controlled. That calm reaction forces her mind to work. Was that on purpose? Is he flirting? Or am I imagining it? Those unanswered questions keep looping. And remember this, doubt creates tension. Tension creates desire. Now we move to the next layer, eye contact. Eye contact is one of the most powerful manipulation tools that exists because it triggers an immediate biological response. When you look someone directly in the eyes, the brain releases oxytocin and dopamine. These are the chemicals responsible for bonding, pleasure, and emotional connection. This is not romantic theory, this is biology. But the real power of eye contact is not in looking, it's in knowing when to look away. Hold eye contact for a few seconds longer than what feels socially comfortable. Long enough for the moment to feel slightly intense, then slowly look away, as if you lost interest. That change matters. That pattern activates the brain's reward system because the other person suddenly feels the need to regain your attention. The brain reacts with a simple instinct. Why did he stop? Do this a few times during a conversation and you'll start noticing clear changes. She will look at you more often. She will watch your reactions. She will try to extend physical closeness. But here's the trap. The moment you notice she's starting to get hooked, you pull back again. If you stay too available, your value drops. Not because you did something wrong, but because uncertainty disappears. And the human mind values most what feels scarce and difficult to obtain. If, after creating that initial connection, you slightly distance yourself or show less interest, her brain will start seeking you compulsively to restore emotional balance. And this is the exact moment where attraction shifts into obsession. Think of it like a drug. When someone experiences euphoria, the brain remembers that feeling and wants it again. But when the source of that feeling suddenly disappears, the brain enters withdrawal. It starts searching, craving, needing. That's the core mechanism behind obsession. You give a taste of emotional or sexual validation, then you take it away. If you move closer, create connection, and then pull back, her brain feels unstable until that sensation returns. And that instability places her in a position of dependence. Now think about this honestly. How many times has someone hooked you with just a look, or a small, subtle, physical touch? Have you ever found yourself thinking about someone again and again, not because of what they did, but because you didn't know what they felt? That is psychological manipulation in its purest form. And if you apply these techniques correctly, the other person will start analyzing every detail of your interactions. Why did he stop replying? Why was he so attentive yesterday and distant today? That constant search for answers activates the brain's reward system, and attraction slowly, quietly transforms into obsession. If you made it this far, you're probably already thinking about someone you could apply this to. Would you dare to try it? Leave a like if you believe these techniques work, and comment if someone has ever manipulated you this way, without you even realizing it. Step 2. Give pleasure, then coldness. This is the stage where the mind begins to crack. Pleasure and validation are not soft things. They are powerful psychological weapons, but only when you know how to use them with control. Most people think obsession is created by giving more attention, more affection, more availability. That's wrong. The key to creating obsession is not constant pleasure. It is the cycle of pleasure and withdrawal. When you give someone a strong feeling of emotional or sexual pleasure, their brain reacts instantly. Dopamine rises. Emotional attachment starts forming. The person feels rewarded. But when that pleasure is suddenly removed, the brain does not relax. It panics. That sudden absence creates emotional withdrawal. The person feels an inner emptiness, a loss of balance. Something feels missing, but they can't explain what. And that imbalance triggers addiction, because the brain starts desperately searching for the same pleasure it just experienced. If you are the one who decides when that pleasure appears and when it disappears, then you are the one in control. Think of it like a drug. If someone receives pleasure constantly, the brain adapts. The effect weakens. What once felt intense becomes normal. The emotional reaction fades. But if the pleasure is strong, intense, and then suddenly taken away, the brain reacts differently. Now it feels like it needs that sensation to feel stable again. That is how addiction forms. Addiction is not created by constant pleasure, it is created by pleasure followed by absence. When you apply this pattern inside a relationship or a sexual interaction, the other person becomes emotionally hooked. Not because of love, but because they begin actively searching for the validation that only you provide. This is known as intermittent reinforcement. It is one of the most powerful psychological conditioning methods that exists. First, you give them a strong taste of emotional or sexual validation. You make them feel seen, wanted, chosen. You make them feel like they are progressing with you. If you are on a date, you are charming. You maintain eye contact. You smile. You laugh at their jokes. You lightly touch their arm or leg at the right moments. Not constantly, not aggressively. You make them feel like they are winning you over. If the situation becomes physical or sexual, you make sure the other person feels they have your full attention. No distractions, no distance. Complete presence. In that moment, they feel safe, desired, validated. But right when they believe they have secured you, you pull back. Not dramatically, not cruelly. You simply change your availability. You reply slower. You reduce physical closeness. You return to a calmer, colder attitude. That shift hits immediately. The brain reacts with confusion. What happened? Did I say something wrong? Did they lose interest? The human brain is designed to avoid loss. When someone who showed strong interest suddenly distances themselves, anxiety is triggered. The mind starts looking for solutions, ways to restore balance. If, after an intense night of passion or a deep emotional connection, you suddenly become colder or less available, the other person will naturally try harder. They will text more. They will seek reassurance. They will increase effort. This is where obsession begins. At this stage, they are no longer chasing pleasure alone. They are chasing validation. They want to recover how they felt when they had your full attention. Do you see what's really happening here? You are not rejecting them directly. You are not saying you don't care. You are not saying you are not interested. You are simply withdrawing your emotional and sexual energy. And that absence does the work for you. When the brain senses that absence, it releases dopamine and adrenaline. These chemicals drive seeking behavior. They start chasing your attention, sending messages, creating reasons to see you, looking for any reaction. And when you finally decide to give another small dose of validation, a reply, a smile, a gentle touch, the emotional relief they feel is intense. That relief reinforces a dangerous belief in their mind. Only you can make me feel balanced again. And that is how obsession strengthens. This effect becomes even stronger when emotional validation is mixed with sexual tension. If after an intense date or passionate encounter you suddenly become distant, the other person doesn't just feel emotional emptiness, they also feel physical absence. If they text you after sex and you don't reply immediately, or you leave the message unseen, their mind begins to spiral. Did I stop being attractive? Was it just sex? Is there someone else? That uncertainty creates jealousy and insecurity pushes obsession. Now imagine this clearly. You spend an incredible night with someone. The connection feels real. The energy is strong. The next morning, you get up, get dressed, and leave. No long goodbye, no affection, no emotional closure. Just a neutral smile and a simple, "See you later." The other person stays behind, lying in bed, replaying everything. Did they like me? Did they enjoy it? Why didn't they stay longer? That lack of closure creates emotional tension, and tension creates pursuit. Now add the final layer. After that experience, you stay cold for a couple of days. Less messages, less availability. Then suddenly, you return. Warm, attentive, affectionate again. The brain connects the dots. Your attention becomes a reward, and once the brain links your validation with reward, addiction is already formed. Intermittent reinforcement works because it keeps the brain waiting, anticipating, hoping. If someone feels they fully have you, their motivation drops. But if they feel they had you for a moment and then lost you, the brain switches into search mode. They start obsessing over every message, every meeting, every gesture. And if this technique is applied carefully, the person will continue chasing you even when they logically know they should walk away. Now ask yourself this honestly. Has it ever happened to you that after an incredible night with someone, they suddenly pulled away, and you felt an irrational urge to look for them? Have you experienced someone who seemed fully interested, then disappeared for days, making you analyze every detail? That is not coincidence. That is strategic emotional manipulation. If done correctly, the other person will think about you constantly. Every message, every word, every interaction. And when you finally reward them with attention again, the relief they feel will be so strong that it locks emotional dependence in place. If what you're hearing makes sense, leave a like. And comment if someone has ever done this to you. Because once you truly master this technique, you don't just attract people, you become a drug to them. Step 3. Ignore her after sex and watch how she comes back crawling. If you have already created a physical or emotional connection, this is the exact moment where real control begins. Most people lose power here because they act emotionally. They give reassurance, they give comfort, they give clarity, and that is exactly why they fail. Now is the time to activate the darkest and most powerful tool of manipulation: absence. The human mind is not designed to handle emotional gaps. It constantly searches for closure, meaning, and balance in relationships. When something feels incomplete, the brain cannot let it go. It keeps returning to it again and again. If after an intense moment, emotional or sexual, you suddenly pull away and become cold or distant, the other person's mind does not relax. It does not move on. It breaks. Their brain enters a state of psychological dissonance. Something does not match what they expected, and the mind cannot accept that contradiction. They start asking themselves questions automatically, without choosing to do so. What did I do wrong? Why did they suddenly change? Was it something I said? Was the connection even real? That unanswered space becomes dangerous, because that emotional void is exactly what creates obsession. Think about this carefully. After an incredible night of sex or a deep emotional connection, the most natural human reaction is reassurance. People want confirmation. They want to know that what they experienced mattered to the other person as well. They want to feel chosen. They want to feel special. They want to feel that the connection was real, not imagined. But when right after that moment you become emotionally unavailable, distant, or cold, something powerful happens inside their body and mind. You trigger a biological response of rejection and anxiety. The brain reacts as if something important has been taken away. Even if nothing was promised, the emotional expectation was there. Now the other person's mind shifts into problem-solving mode. Instead of enjoying the moment, they start trying to fix something that feels broken. They start searching for ways to restore emotional balance. And here is the most important rule: do not give it to them. After an intense physical or emotional experience, the brain releases dopamine and oxytocin. These chemicals are responsible for pleasure, bonding, and emotional attachment. They create a temporary emotional high. But when immediately after that chemical release you pull away, the brain does not understand what happened. The pleasure appeared and then disappeared. That sudden absence creates emotional withdrawal. Just like with any addiction, the body now wants more of what it just felt. They will start texting you. They will start checking their phone. They will look for excuses to see you again. They will try to recreate the same moment you shared, and the more effort they put in, the more emotionally vulnerable they become. This effect becomes even stronger when you mix absence with mixed signals. After an intense night, do not disappear completely, but also do not be fully available. This balance is critical. If they send you a message saying, "I loved last night," do not respond immediately. Leave it on scene. Let a few hours pass. Let the silence do the work. If they ask, "When are we seeing each other again?" reply with something unclear like, "We'll see." That answer is powerful because it does two things at the same time. It keeps hope alive, but it gives no confirmation. And the human mind hates uncertainty. That lack of certainty forces the brain to replay the interaction again and again. Every word, every look, every touch, every moment. This overanalysis strengthens obsession. Now comes the master strike: physical withdrawal. If after a night of emotional or sexual connection you wake up early, get dressed, and leave without explaining much, the impact is immediate. No long goodbye, no emotional reassurance, no affection, just distance. The other person is left alone with their thoughts, trying to make sense of what just happened. If they ask you directly, "Did you like it?" and you respond calmly with, "It was fine," you send a devastating psychological message. The message is not spoken, it is felt. It mattered more to you than it did to me. That difference in perception cuts deep. It activates fear of rejection, and fear of rejection pushes people to chase reassurance. Now take it one step further. If after that you stay cold for a couple of days, or you subtly start paying attention to someone else, the other person enters a state of emotional competition. They feel like they are losing ground. They feel replaceable. They feel the need to win you back. This is where manipulation becomes addictive. The human brain is wired to value what feels difficult to obtain. What feels uncertain feels valuable. If after an intense connection you pull away, the brain starts associating pleasure with chasing you. They begin justifying your behavior. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they don't want to rush. Maybe I should try harder. But beneath those excuses, something deeper is happening. Their mind is being conditioned to seek your validation. And when you finally decide to respond again, even with a small sign of interest, the relief they feel is overwhelming. That relief reinforces the emotional addiction cycle. This pattern works because it attacks two core psychological needs at the same time: the need for closure and the need for validation. If after an intense experience you disappear, the brain feels like it lost something valuable. That sense of loss creates an instinctive response to search and restore balance. They start thinking about you constantly. They analyze every message, every reaction, every word you said. They replay moments again and again, trying to find the mistake, trying to understand what changed. And the more they try to figure you out, the more emotionally trapped they become. That is how obsession tightens its grip. Now be honest with yourself. Has someone ever done this to you? Have you ever felt deeply connected after an intense night, only to feel confused and unsettled when the other person suddenly disappeared? Have you ever replayed conversations in your head, trying to locate the exact moment where things shifted? That was not random. That was emotional manipulation. If you know these techniques are effective, leave a like, and comment if someone has ever manipulated you this way, or if you have done it without even realizing it. Because once you truly understand this level of control, you don't just attract people, you stay in their mind, long after you're gone. Step 4. Trigger jealousy with someone else and watch her obsess over you. Step 4 is where everything you've built so far becomes permanent. This is the final lock. Up to this point, you created attraction. You created tension. You created uncertainty. You created withdrawal. Now you activate the strongest psychological force of all, competition. If you want a woman to become obsessed with you to the point where she cannot stop thinking about you, jealousy is your most effective weapon. Not aggressive jealousy, not loud jealousy, not obvious jealousy. Those fail. The real power is quiet jealousy, the kind that works in the background of the mind. Female psychology is naturally wired to respond to competition. This is not opinion or theory, it is instinct. When a woman feels that another woman could take your attention away, her brain does not stay calm. It shifts instantly into defense mode. Her instincts push her to do 3 things automatically: secure your attention, validate the emotional connection, reconfirm her position in your life. She may not say it out loud, but internally she starts questioning herself. Where do I stand with him? Does he value me more than others? Could I lose him? These questions change behavior. But here is the most important rule of step 4. You never trigger jealousy in an obvious or aggressive way. If you make it obvious, she feels manipulated. If you make it aggressive, she feels disrespected. If you make it desperate, you lose all power. The goal is not to scare her. The goal is to plant doubt. If she senses she could lose you, her mind does the rest. She will try harder, she will invest more, she will seek reassurance without you asking. The most effective way to trigger jealousy is through selective attention. Attention is a resource. If you give it freely and constantly, it loses value. The brain adapts. What feels guaranteed feels boring. That is why giving too much attention at the beginning kills attraction. But when attention becomes unpredictable, sometimes present, sometimes missing, the brain stays alert. Now comes the critical move. You begin showing interest in other women, strategically. Not flirting openly, not touching, not disrespecting, just enough to be noticed. You mix moments of warmth toward her with moments where your attention shifts elsewhere. This activates the competition instinct in her mind, and the moment a woman feels she is competing for your attention, her attraction does not stay the same. It multiplies. Now imagine a real situation. You are at a gathering, a party, a social event, a normal environment. She is nearby, watching you, aware of your presence. Then, naturally, you approach another woman. No rush, no drama. You smile, you talk casually, you hold eye contact for a few seconds, nothing obvious, nothing sexual, just calm confidence. Now here is the trick that makes this work. While you are talking to the other woman, you occasionally shift your gaze back toward her. Not staring, not smiling, just a brief look. If she is watching, and she will be, she notices immediately. That combination sends a powerful message to her subconscious. He's available, but not only for me. That single thought is enough. It creates threat, and threat forces action. Her brain reacts instantly, pushing her to protect her position. She may move closer, she may interrupt, she may change her tone. She may give you more attention without realizing why. Now comes a critical moment. If after that interaction she asks you directly, "Who was that girl?" or "Why were you smiling at her like that?" This is where most people destroy everything. They explain, they justify, they reassure, and reassurance kills obsession. Never give a direct answer. Direct answers create clarity. Clarity removes tension. Instead, respond with something vague. "I was just being friendly." Or better, "Why does it matter to you?" That response does something powerful. It gives her nothing solid to hold on to. Her mind stays active. Uncertainty keeps desire alive because her brain cannot decode your real intention. And when the mind is searching for answers, it is already trapped. This is how obsession works. Now step back and look at the pattern. First, you introduce a subtle threat. Then you activate insecurity and competition. And just when she feels she might be losing you, you give her a small dose of validation. A smile, a warm moment, a sign of attention. That contrast is dangerous. This cycle, threat followed by reward, creates emotional addiction. Why? Because the brain starts associating your attention with emotional relief. And once someone starts seeking relief in your presence, obsession has already formed. This pattern is effective because it activates two core psychological mechanisms at the same time: fear of loss and the need for validation. If she feels she could lose you, while still receiving small signs of interest and approval, your attention becomes something valuable that must be protected. Scarcity increases value. And when your attention feels rare, attraction turns into obsession. At this stage, her behavior changes noticeably. She starts watching you more carefully. She notices small shifts in your mood. She reads meaning into small actions. She starts justifying your behavior instead of questioning it. Her mind has already decided that you are a source of pleasure and emotional validation. This works because you are directly manipulating the basic instincts of desire and loss. Pleasure followed by withdrawal triggers the instinct to chase. And when you add competition into that cycle, her brain remains in a constant state of alert. She stays mentally engaged. Once a woman starts searching for answers in your behavior, she has already entered the obsession loop. She is no longer reacting logically, she is reacting emotionally, and emotion always overrides reason. If all the previous steps were applied correctly, tension, withdrawal, absence, step 4 locks everything in. You no longer need to push. You no longer need to chase. You no longer need to explain. Her mind does the work for you. She thinks about you when you're not there. She compares others to you. She feels discomfort at the idea of losing you. That is obsession. And once obsession begins, it feeds itself. By now, one thing should be clear. Obsession is not created by love. It is not created by honesty. It is not created by giving more time, more effort, or more reassurance. Obsession is created by emotional imbalance. Throughout this video, every step followed the same psychological pattern. You gave attention, then you took it away. You created connection, then you removed certainty. You offered pleasure, then you introduced absence, and finally, you added competition. Each time, the brain reacted the same way. Not emotionally, biologically. Dopamine increased, oxytocin created attachment, adrenaline triggered anxiety and alertness. These chemicals don't respond to promises or logic. They respond to patterns. That is why people become obsessed even when they know they shouldn't. That is why some people stay in our minds long after they disappear. Not because they were perfect, not because they treated us well, but because they never gave closure. They left emotions unfinished. They left questions unanswered. They created experiences without resolution. And the human mind hates unfinished things. The mind keeps returning to what feels incomplete. It keeps replaying moments. It keeps searching for meaning. That is obsession. When you understand this, you stop chasing people. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop trying to convince anyone of your value. You let silence speak. You let distance work. You let uncertainty create pressure. And that is why this knowledge is dangerous. Because once you understand how easily emotions can be shaped, you realize how often this has already been done to you. Think back, the people you couldn't forget. The ones who pulled away suddenly, the ones who gave you intense moments, then disappeared. That wasn't fate, that wasn't coincidence. That was psychology. They didn't control you with words, they controlled you with absence, contrast, and uncertainty. Now you see the pattern, and now you understand why attraction turns into obsession and why obsession turns into dependency. What you choose to do with this knowledge is your responsibility. Use it intentionally. Use it carefully. Because influence is more powerful than force. The strongest form of control is not telling someone what to feel, it's making them believe those feelings came from within themselves. When someone thinks their emotions are their own, the control is complete. If this video made you see relationships differently, leave a like. If you've experienced this in your own life, comment below. And if you're ready to go deeper, to understand the next level of psychological control, I'll see you in the next part. Because this was only the beginning.